I'm Em, and today I'm going to be taking you for a look around the village of Filby here on the Norfolk Broads. The village of Filby lies on the eastern edge of the Norfolk Broads. Some of the first settlers to the area were Danes, with many of the local village names being of Danish origin. In the Domesday Book of 1086, Filby is featured as being a community of 198 people. The village went on to become essentially agricultural and was known for its market gardens, particularly its raspberries, with half of its land given over to producing this single crop. However, in the 1960s the land became more valuable than the crops being produced, and all 5 of the village's market gardens were sold off for property development. Today, the village is an attractive base to live in for commuters into Norwich and Great Yarmouth, and provides many amenities for its residents, including a post office, public house, launderette, a village hall, primary school, and a popular restaurant. And of course, like most villages in Norfolk, it wouldn't be complete without its quintessential village church. The Church of All Saints to the south of the main street was built in the 14th century, with later additions including its grand tower, built in the following couple of centuries. In the 1800s, along with several other churches in the area, it underwent some restorations where all the window tracery was renewed. There are over 100 thatch roof churches in Norfolk, but it's quite unusual to see one on a church quite as big as this one. All Saints Church wasn't the only place of worship in the village. During the 16th and 17th centuries, people grew increasingly unhappy with the practices and rituals of the Church of England. This led to a group of dissenters, or nonconformists, meeting up to worship in secret to avoid persecution. After the Declaration of Indulgence of 1672, their meetings were no longer illegal, and this meant they were able to finally build their own meeting houses or chapels. And just down this lane to the south of the village was the site of one. The original Dissenters' Chapel built here was completed in 1705 and was one of the first to be built in the country. Constructed of brick and flint, it was designed to seat 200 people. It was eventually replaced shortly before 1900 with a much smaller brick chapel seen outlined here. In 1940 it was badly damaged by a bomb, which made the structure so unsafe it had to be demolished. For many years the site became overgrown and forgotten, until in 1990 when it was rediscovered and cleared and made into the nice little area we see here now. Filby is also known locally for its participation in the Anglian Bloom competitions and has had regular success with its stunning floral displays. It really is a delight to visit during the summer to see the wonderful efforts the villagers put in. Now, I couldn't come to the Norfolk Broads without showing you one of the Broads itself, and the first one we're going to have a look at is just down here. Filby is surrounded by the Norfolk Broads, which are man-made waterways created by digging out peat from the marshy landscape, which was a widely used type of fuel back then. The peat had been extracted up until the 14th century, when the massive holes that had been created slowly began to fill with water as the sea levels rose, flooding the pits and making the peat extraction no longer possible, but creating over 200 kilometres of broads and rivers.
unlike most of the Broads, the ones around Filby aren't actually connected to the rest of the system.
The waters around Filby are part of the Trinity Broads, a site of scientific interest, which has no navigable link to the main river system, and therefore remains virtually undisturbed, and supports a wealth of wildlife rarely found in the rest of the Broads network. The Trinity Broads are also used as a reservoir for drinking water, with over 5 million litres leaving every day, supplying 80,000 customers.
And for that reason, motorised vehicles are not actually allowed, creating a constant peaceful setting.
Sailing, rowing boats and fishing, however, are allowed on these Broads, but are carefully regulated so as not to disturb the rich bird life and its natural beauty.
And just over the road to the north of Filby Broad, we've got Little Ormesby Broad, which I'm going to take you for a look at now. So we've finally made it to Little Ormesby Broad. And if you want to take a visit to Filby yourself, I would recommend the campsite here at Broad Farm, just to the west of the village. So another little landmark just on the outskirts of Filby actually is the ruined church of St Mary's, and we're going to take a look now. I've now brought you in the remains of St Mary's Church here, which is quite a ruin unfortunately, with just part of the tower and the west wall remaining. But there is a little bit of history to this place, so I'm going to tell you about that now.
The magnificent Norman ruined church now sits in the middle of a ploughed field just outside Filby, and fell into disuse just after the Reformation around the mid-1500s. All that now survives is the round tower and bell stage, which is probably 12th century, plus the north wall where you can still see remains of the doorway. By 1602, the church was described as decayed and having been converted into a barn.
So I think that probably concludes our little look around the village of Filby on the Norfolk Broads. We've had a beautiful day for it. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So if you're ever around the area, come and give it a look. So until next time, we'll see you again.